I'm Donna Isaac, Director of Scottsdale Public Art, and I can't thank you enough for showing up on a Saturday morning and for joining us this morning. So there is an intent to this overall workshop and discussion this morning of taking the lead. As we worked with artists the last few years, as all of us on staff have recognized that there is a real need to help artists look at how you might move into taking on large capital permanent projects with a public art agency, as well as moving from being a student or possibly your own studio work into possibly the first step of a temporary project with us. So we're hoping that this is helpful for you and that it really gives you some broad concepts. The images you're going to be seeing are Scottsdale Public Art. We love our collection and we love to show it. But please know that what we're talking about in terms of process, RFQ versus RFP, the selection panel process, some of the contractual things that we're going to bring to your attention this morning are the best practices. So they're not only for Scottsdale Public Art, they're throughout Arizona and nationwide. You may or may not know that under the Americans for the Arts, there's a group called the Public Art Network. So as new issues come up, as professionals in the field, we all share that information and we really work that the best practices are in place. Now, if you're going to be working with Phoenix Public Art Program, under the Office of Arts and Culture, the City of Tempe or Chandler, there's going to be some slight differences, but basically some of the main concepts are going to be the same. So in that way, we're hoping this is a good foundation of a workshop for you. So first of all, some housekeeping. This is informal. I don't know you're set up like an auditorium, but please feel free to get up to get more coffee or muffins. Arcadia Farms sponsored that this morning and we're very grateful to them. The restrooms are right outside the door to your right. And during my introduction and discussion this morning, you're welcome to ask any questions. We'd really like this to be informal as it can be. And I do want to especially thank my staff. So Kevin Vaughan-Brubaker, Public Art Manager. Many of you may already know him and have worked with him. Jennifer Gill, our project coordinator, who you met out front, is also taking on project management and may be, for those of you working in Influx, she may be your contact person and manager. And Amy DeCossin, who you met out front, who will be in and out, our events assistant, works very closely with Andrea Tutley, our assistant director, who programs the entire Canal Convergence. So that is for us our biggest event of 4 days, and it also is a full-time job because we have to really work with artists a long time in advance for that, and I'll go into a little bit of detail as we get there. So we did want you to know what our mission is, that we have looked to, that we are the leader in defining art in the public realm through creative placemaking, signature, cultural events, exhibitions, and installations. And we really are in some ways leading the nation on a conversation of a change of funding. Capital projects have been the basis for the public art programs as they started in this country. Scottsdale Public Art celebrated its 30th anniversary in 1985, and that was when the City Council passed the 8% for art ordinance. This is not unusual. Almost every public art program has begun with a percent for art ordinance. Ours is 1%. And it is based on the project cost. So we are talking about large capital infrastructure projects. You've seen it along Scottsdale Road, you've seen it along Indian School, where you have improvements with median, with landscape architecture, and integrated public art. That funding has really been shifting, and this is a conversation that actually is going on right now across the nation with public art programs. As that shifts, we've really been one of the first to be able to move into temporary projects as a way to continue to refresh our program, continue to work with different artists, and work with artists who may not ever be in our permanent collection. So it's really given us a broad-based opportunity. And you can see here we have our art and private development. We're one of 23 cities nationally that actually have a stipulation for developers in the downtown and at the air park for a 1% that goes to public art. And we're very proud of those projects. You'll see some examples shortly. Our permanent capital projects, our temporary artworks, our public art library exhibition series that some of you may already know about, Canal Convergence, Influx, and we do have the livery space on Brown Avenue as a creative residency space. It isn't live work, so we really make that available for local artists to use, but we hope that this is a starting point for us of building a very active creative residency program. So our program is diverse, and our collection, the permanent pieces become part of what is called the municipal collection of the city of Scottsdale, so it is owned by the city. We, however, maintain it and restore it, and many of you may know Wendy Racinen, our wonderful curator of collections and exhibitions, and she with Daniel Funkhauser it's not just graffiti abatement, believe me, with 30 years, we're now looking at some major restoration of some of our first pieces, and that's part of what we have to do for the city and for visitors and this community. So right now we have over 90 permanent pieces. You will see some of the works that we've done that really have created that sense of space. Diamond Bloom in your upper left is actually at the Museum of the West. It is outside, and it is intended as a counterpoint to what we knew was going to be a collection of more traditional Western art. The artist, this was his very first public art commission out of Portland, Oregon, and you can actually walk through that piece. So we have both the Lawn Auerbach, the Celeriac Bridge in Plaza is one of our iconic pieces. It remains the only constructed bridge by Paolo Celeri in the world, and we're very, very proud of it. Herb Minerary, that's Jackknife, Ed Mel's Jackknife, which is in the center roundabout of Main Street, right downtown. Our watermark piece, which people love to photograph. The idea is when it really, really rains, which it did a couple of weeks ago, these are actually gargoyles. So the water in that retention basin behind the piece then goes through the horse's mouths, and there is a whole underneath part of that Indian Bend road that you can walk under. And all of this was designed by an artist team who are public artists and landscape architects. And then Copper Falls by local artist Bob Adams. It took a corner that really was not very pretty, right there at Camelback and Scottsdale Road, that had the radial gate from SRP. So it used to collect trash, and it now becomes a way to counter that. And Bob came up with this beautiful way of having both a visual with the water running over those hammered copper bowls, but there's also a sound component to it. So it's really become a beautiful corner for this city, and that is what public art does. Our libraries have been very important to us because our capital projects include public buildings. So you see Arabian Library, the Appaloosa Library, Mustang Library at your upper right was our very first completed public art project in 1987. And these are well used, and all of the artists have really addressed those spaces very differently. And the materials that are used with those spaces are very different as well. Our art and private development ordinance has brought us Robert Indiana's Love sculpture, which has to be one of the best loved pieces. We, I think, broke a record this past Valentine's Day, which happened to be on a Sunday. Even the city was calling us. I mean, there were 1,000 people kind of waiting in line to get their photo taken. The Doors, which is at the corner of Scottsdale Road and Camelback. Now that is not just a drive-by experience. There's actually a sound component to that. So we're hoping as we become more pedestrian in this downtown area that people will actually go inside of it and hear Jim Green's computerized sound pieces to it. Our Tyrell Sky Space, which is part of SMOCA, but you don't have to pay to go into it. and it's one of his early public sky spaces, and we are very proud of that. And that is for Mineraries Passing the Legacy, which is a wonderful story of the Old West and the New West. So our temporary projects. Canal Convergence is now going to be moving into its 5th year, and it is a signature event now for the city. Last year we had over 56,000 people coming through over the 4 days. We have our influx, and Kevin will be talking to you about that, and our exhibitions, our creative residency, and art at the Quarter, which is at Scottsdale Quarter. So when we look for Canal Convergence now, yes? Am I supposed to do something? You're waving at me. Okay, sorry, I'll keep this moving. Just a few more slides. No, she's doing her job, I told her to do that. So, when we started Canal Convergence, we were only programming from Celeriac to Marshall Way Bridge. And we now have that loop completed. And so our programming is from Celeriac Bridge from Scottsdale Road to Goldwater Boulevard. This has actually become a well-known event internationally, and so as we look at artists for this, we have been targeting artists. We have artists who have approached us. We have groups like Vivid Sydney and Light Marina Bay in Singapore who are approaching us for possible co-commissions. So this is really getting on the radar of international work and sound and light, as well as working with SRP, because the intent of this was to address sustainability and how we're living in the desert. We do have a submission process, and it is a limited invitational. Our open call for ideas that we send out, we target a lot of local artists to have you consider looking at Canal Convergence and looking at the banks of the canal or coming up with ideas for workshops. Now, I will tell you that a piece on the wall cannot float in the water. So, and I'm saying that because we have to, this is really challenging. I mean, this is raw river water coming through. It has a current, it moves, there's debris that comes through. So it takes us about a year to have our artists who are installing in the canal under contract to work through the technical challenges. And just for you to know that as you look at possibly applying for something that's around the canal, and eventually you want to do a major feature installation in the canal, that we work very closely with you. If any of you saw Blooms last year, Bruce Monroe, that was his first public art installation. He had done a lot of installations in botanical gardens. It was a collaborative, multi-city. It took us 2.5 years to get to that point. And it was 9 months working with his studio to figure out how to install those so that they wouldn't be dragged down by weight and could really move with the water. So these are really technical things that we work with you on. We do have requests for qualifications then in June as well, a more open call. And you see here some of the local artists who participated with us last year, Lindsay Kincaid and Christopher Jagman, as well as Amy Manning. Our exhibitions are pretty much curated by Wendy, and we have the ability to do that. So we have both our Scottsdale Civic Center gallery at the library, which is about 2,000 square feet. And we have a gallery space of a hallway at the Appaloosa Library, which is up near Pinnacle Peak and Scottsdale Road. And we program both of those. Now, during the summer, our exhibitions are especially intended to be interactive for families. That call for next year is actually out, and you can always look to our website or call us for any information that you might want about this. And you're going to be hearing from Nathaniel Lewis very shortly, who is currently presenting The Catacombs of Professor McGee for the summer. That is a big draw. I mean, during our summer, we bring anywhere from 25,000 to almost 30,000 people through. And the workshops are very important. It's a wonderful way for families to come in from the summer heat and to stay active. Art at the Quarter. We have built a relationship with Scottsdale Quarter to really have a presence in that north part of Scottsdale. And it's really more of a thinking outside the box, and we love working with them there because they really are very open to different things. You'll see here Peter Bugg's piece of the selfie, Kristen Wolf when she wrapped the light post, and currently at your upper left is J.D. Snyder, a well-known Phoenix street artist who did a beautiful mural. And I have to say, we had a very fun reception. It was a hot Saturday evening in June, but we had a lot of people coming through to see that. It's right on South Street. So those kinds of partnerships are things that we build, and then we can send that out to you as a local artist community. And as Kevin comes up to take over for Influx, I just wanted all of you to know that our relationship with all of you as a local artist community is very important to us. And we want to be able to support you as you're looking at your careers and moving forward. And so that's the point of going over all of this. So Kevin.